Let's talk about what's hot now. Talk about a controversy. Take a look at this photo. That is the cover of this month's art issue of Interview magazine, which features 18-year-old reality star Kylie Jenner posing in a wheelchair. Now, some people say this is art. Others, like me, I find this offensive. There's a bunch of pictures within the magazine, and she's made to look sort of like a sex toy. That's the way she's positioned. But the cover is what has raised the most controversy.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out to you guys.
Well, I mean, I'll take the unpopular position on this one. So don't tweet me today, okay? But, I mean, I look at the positive of this. I'm not looking at the negative of this. I see this as art. If you know Interview magazine, if you know this photographer,
What's
they're
art
always...
about it? That's what I don't get.
Well, I mean, look, she's sitting in a wheelchair, where I think a lot of times people that are handicapped and they're in a wheelchair, they're looked at as less than. She is sitting in this chair beautifully, looking like art. I think this gives power to someone that's in a wheelchair. If I'm 13 years old, looking at this cover, looking at my favorite celebrity sitting in this chair...
putting Amy Van Dyke and Ruin in that wheelchair would show Amy Van Dyke and Ruin, the Olympian who is
someone in a wheelchair.
Paralyzed, yeah. That would be power to me. Now, my husband uses a wheelchair, not all the time. He has MS, but when we go to airports, for example, he's always objectified. They don't talk to him. They talk to me. Does he want this? He's got a voice, and I think this just adds to it. I really don't like it. I really don't. I think there's so many other ways.
Yeah,
it's just, it doesn't do it for me.
But sometimes you need other people to give you that power, just like,
she doesn't give you any power.
Well,
She's dressed up like a sex toy.
I know, but just let's compare it to like the LGBT. It took our straight allies to get the voice out, not the gay people to get the voice out, first. And I see this as, no, she's not handicapped, but I think this is really giving power and a beauty. This looks beautiful to me to be in a wheelchair.
Is it
does.
that it's a
with Lance, because for me, I don't think she's trying to put down the people that are in wheelchairs.
I'm not saying they attempt to do that, but that's what I feel.
My biggest question with them in general is why are they always doing stuff that's not them? First she want to be black, now she in a wheelchair, she gonna try to be fat next week. I mean, they always doing something that's not them.
Good thing. A few things. One is, this is one of 3 covers. So it's not like Interview magazine just picked this photo to focus on. There are 3 different covers with the magazine. I think of it as, like you said, is there a positive here? Is this a conversation starter for the fashion industry on how to maybe be more inclusive? I know
that... put disabled people in magazines. Use them.
I agree. I agree with you.
Doesn't do anything for them.
I disagree. I think that it's a conversation starter. There was a woman that tweeted that is in a wheelchair, and she said, for me, I see this as an opportunity. Maybe more people can see the beauty in my disability, and maybe more designers or more photographers will have the opportunity to feature models like myself who are handicapped in this particular way.
Okay, well, then that's great. If that happens, I think that's
one way to look at it as a positive thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll buy that. Okay. And let's see how long that takes. I'd be very curious.
It'll be fast.
Okay, there's another set of photos that are creating an uproar as well. Take a look at these. They are photos of Miley Cyrus, Emma Watson, I think Kim Kardashian is in one of them, and Kendall Jenner, I think, is in another. They're the work of artist Alexandro Palumbo. He has photoshopped images of these celebrities to take a stand against domestic violence. The Kardashians did not give him permission. I mean, literally, he just photoshopped the picture to make it look like they had been abused. They had not. Kim Kardashian didn't give him permission. Kendall Jenner didn't either. We don't know if the other women did. But do you think this is an effective way to tackle domestic violence and to get people
to light what you just said about using someone in a wheelchair, a real person? Why not use real people in these pictures? That's effective.
Yeah.
You can find celebrities who've been affected. Rihanna, who's affected by domestic violence. Ask Rihanna to take a stance. Ask celebs. If you want to use a celeb, ask a celeb who's been affected by domestic violence to be in these pictures. I think it falls on deaf ears when it's, just a celeb and putting some makeup on them.
Or is it the same argument that you had, Lance?
It is exactly the same argument. Like it or not, celebrities have currency in this world. Magic Johnson coming out with HIV moved the needle. Ellen coming out moved the needle for LGBT.
But he had.
I know, but like I said, straight allies for the LGBT. So celebrity has currency. So when we see these celebrities, when you see a celebrity, you think you know them. They feel like family to you, and you don't really get something until something happens to you or a family member. And when you see a celebrity looking like this, you feel that emotion. You feel connected to them. And I think as long as it starts a great dialogue and a conversation, wonderful. Because if you put someone that is not a celebrity and
But what would
no one's
really
gonna
start a
care.
dialogue, I think, is if a celebrity came out and said, yes, I was abused, like a Rihanna.
Yeah, and that would be great.
That would really, that's like, I'm no different than anybody else.
It would be great, but how many are going to do that?
I know.
But no, it's showing you're not ashamed to admit that you've been a victim of domestic violence.
It takes putting a regular person out there. We see celebrities all the time because they're put out there. But if somebody put a billboard of a regular woman looking like that, I would pay attention.
I
I'd
would
go,
too.
oh my God, what's
It wouldn't be
going
the
on?
same effect.
I don't
think
know
so.
if it would be the same effect. For me, absolutely, when I think for a lot of people, we don't need to see celebrities in those type of situations. We just need to see those type of situations to be aware of them.
But I'll go back to the photos that were released a few weeks ago of the woman who dated the Cowboys player. I don't want to have to see images of this to break the silence around domestic violence.
But
It's like, I agree,
unfortunately it does, though,
you know,
right.
but I don't know. I guess his goal was to raise awareness.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is the right way to do it, but we are talking about it.
exactly.
So he obviously
So nice.
accomplished his goal in doing that.
All right, let's move on, okay? Some argue that in order to stop mass shootings, like what we witnessed in Paris, we need more good guys with guns. Well, now some of our nation's police unions have asked the NFL to let some firearm owners carry hidden weapons inside stadiums. They want off-duty and retired, just listen, off-duty and retired police officers to have the right to be armed. The NFL implemented a stadium gun ban in 2013. Do you think it's a good idea? There have been cases where crimes have been stopped by somebody who's off-duty and happens to have a
There's
gun
so
on
many
them.
problems with that kind of thing because you've had unclothed officers. I mean,
Right.
they have clothes on, but
Right,
they,
right.
We know what
plain
you're saying,
clothes
yeah.
officers
Yes.
who have been having weapons and then they're shot by another officer because they don't believe or don't know who it is. I just think it leaves too much room for error because if I'm in a situation and someone who's not dressed as a police officer presents himself towards me with a gun, I would be very intimidated.
I think
by
you're
it.
asking for some trouble. I think this is going to be bad for the off-duty cops because think about it.
them in a
At the stadium, you have armed guards there. You have on-duty cops there. So, trust the NFL that they're protecting their stadium.
Right.
But these off-duty cops, you're just asking for trouble because they're there to have fun. It's illegal to drink and have a concealed weapon.
Right.
They're there to have fun.
Exactly.
So
There's a lot of
you're-
beer flowing.
You're asking for them to get fired and cause problems for these cops. And once again, cops are going to be the bad guy once something goes down.
The other thing with this is a gun won't necessarily stop bad things from happening.
Right.
So if something bad's going to happen, unfortunately, like in France or Paris or in a stadium, things are going to happen. So a gun's not necessarily going to prohibit something from happening.
I'd like to ask the audience, clap if you think it's a good idea.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's powerful.
There was one woman that wanted to clap in the front row.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. Yeah,
Generation.
look, the Fraternal Order of Police, the national office, they think it's a great idea. They support
do
it.
think it's a
They
good
do think it's a
idea.
good idea. So
I think what Lance said is an interesting point. Putting them, onus is on them now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're off duty to have fun, and now it's
Right.
on them to keep protecting and serving.
I think
exactly.
better security all around, whether it's an airport or a stadium, is what we should be looking at reforming,
Right.
not just adding guns to civilians.
All right. Another topic here. There are some people who feel that college kids these days are too sensitive, like the president. Yeah, now you're shouting, yeah. But I see a lot of young kids here who probably don't think that, right?
No.
I don't know, right? President of Oklahoma Wesleyan University is coming under fire for a controversial blog post he wrote titled, "This is not daycare, it's a university." Dr. Everett Piper, he chose to share his frustrations publicly after a student complained about being offended by a sermon given at the university that was about love. And the boy felt that, he was not giving enough love, so it was offensive to him, made him feel bad. And the president basically said, get a life,
And I would too.
I wonder about this generation feeling like a little woe is me, a smidge. No?
Yeah, well,
I
that's what
think we need to be careful not to paint a whole generation just because of one person saying
Yeah.
something.
I agree.
I don't think that generation is so woe as me. I think they're very smart. I believe in this new generation.
I do
have
too.
hope for this new generation. I do.
I think what we're seeing, and I think what's unique about this generation, is that they are so vocal. They're
Right.
vocal amongst their peer groups. They're not scared to have discourse with someone that's older or the head of a university, and they're certainly not scared to put it out on social media.
Right.
And I think that's what we're responding to. I think, an older generation is saying all this dialogue and all this chatter talking, but I think it's important to have that kind of communication for them to stand up for what they believe, and that's what I'm seeing more than anything versus this one kind of bad seed.
I think he missed the entire lesson about sermons because I went to a parochial school. You're supposed to feel guilty and bad in a sermon. That's the job They did it.
Well, he crossed the line with me when he mentioned the University of Missouri. He said if you want that kind of school that coddles you, like the University of Missouri was one that he mentioned. And those were kids who came out and protested because of racism on that campus and affected real change. And thank goodness they did do it and had the voice that you said. I have 3 millennials living in my home. Well, they're not there, but all my kids. And they're great if it only pick up their clothes. It would be perfect. Anyway, MTV is actually naming the next generation after the millennials, and he's calling them the founders. These are these young teens born after 2000. MTV president Sean Atkins said it is the founders' job to rebuild the floundering society left behind by previous generations.
Does that mean us?
Yes.
I mean, are we the culprits here?
do?
Do we leave a bad generation?
They claim the millennials are the culprits. I go back.
I'm not a millennial.
I'm a wife.
Oh, wait.
Well, how you gonna name them the founders? They didn't
like the
found
name.
nothing.
Yeah.
They're Magellan.
Hopefully they're going to be.
Found a new yeah.
Well, hopefully they're going to be the fixers. You know, like I said, I believe in this new generation, and every generation has helped from the last generation. Look how far we've come. The world is getting better. I know terrible things are happening, but it is getting socially. No, science, you know, medicine, everything is getting better. I mean,
Global
it is.
warming.
So we need to realize that and trust that they're going to make even what we did
lace
better.
front wigs a lot better. I'm so happy about that.
All right. Before we go to break, we're all a little too obsessed with our smartphones, and now a kid who called his mom out for it by giving her a ticket has gone viral. Take a look at this photo. Oh. He wrote, "Ticket for being on the phone most of the time and not being seriously with me a lot." Oh. And the fine was for over $112 quillion. Right at the end. Hope you enjoy paying the fine. His dad posted it. It's since been taken down. But what do you think?
I actually, when I saw this, I do this. I'm on my phone with my little 4-year-old, and she goes, "Mom, get off the phone." I'm like, "I'm working.
And are you?
Not all the time. I admit it. I'm honest. Not all the time, but it makes you take a step back a little bit. My husband and I have a rule in our house. We put our phones down at 9 o'clock at night to spend time with one another. So maybe do that with your kids. Put it down. What's so important, really? But really, what is so important?
But is it sad that he got to that point where he had to write the...
But that's insane.
Yeah.
He's obviously affected by it. Mom's on the phone
I
a lot.
called her last night at 9:20 and she picked up the phone.
Because...
Wait a minute. You said you had a rule.
We do have a rule. Because when I see Yams calling, I think emergency 911. It's 9:20, and I picked it up, and you were having a little bit of a moment.
I was.
So I answered the phone. And then my husband yelled from the living room, "What are you doing on the phone? Who are you on the phone with?" And I was like, "It's Yams." So, yes, I pick up the phone for you.
It's a nice reminder to be present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Whether you
realize
have
kids are always watching
and
you, too.
whether you have kids or not, it's a nice reminder to be present to your partner or anyone in your parents, whoever, and get off the phone.